Hi everybody, how's it going? Somebody let me know if you can hear me. I'd appreciate it. Just want to make sure the microphone is working okay. Okay, great. All right, so hope everybody's doing okay. We are going to make these cute turtle cards tonight. They are pretty easy to put together. We'll just take some time to do some coloring. And the samples I all did with markers, but I will do some colored pencils too, so you can see a variety. Let me just get this a little more straighter. Okay. All right, so all of these cards are the standard size. So the cardstock is 8.5 by 5.5. So they're all going to be scored on the 8.5 side at 4.25 and half. And they're all horizontal. And then in addition, they all have this embossed panel on white cardstock. And I don't know if you can see, but if you look at your embossed panels, you can see the difference. Now, often when I do an embossing, let me show you the folder before I get into that. This is the medallions folder by Close to My Heart is what I used. So often when I do an embossing folder, you get a feeling like there's a wrong way and a right way to have the embossing stand out. This one is not so much, and I really did like it both ways. So I did half of my samples one way and half the other, and you can just decide as we're putting them together which way you like it better. So if you see in this corner on this one, that the petals, the lines are popping up, and then the inside is, you know, is down. And then this one, it's the opposite way, where the inside of the petals are popping up and the lines are down towards our card. And of course, because I use the two different sides, they end up in opposite corners. So you can decide. I'll tell you which way I did it for each of my samples as we go along, but you can decide to do it whichever way you want. And likewise, you can turn the panel one way or the other if for some reason you wanted to highlight a design, you know, in the corners that are showing on the card. All right, so hopefully your stacks are all already in the right order, so you can easily follow along with me. The cardstocks I used for these cards are not Close to My Heart, so they are the same on both sides. The only one that isn't is the greetings, but those are all stamped, so it doesn't matter for you because I already stamped them on the light side of that cardstock. All right, so the first one, I called this one the Sage Green cardstock. And let me dig out my scoring tool. and my glasses. And like I said, we're going to score at 4 1/4. And, or just fold it in half. And on this card, I had the lines, here's the full embossed. So if you look at these diamonds or these leaves, they're puffed up. I'm actually going to turn it around. So I'm actually putting my adhesive on the side where those center flowers and diamonds are puffing up. And whoops, some spare adhesive there. All right, and we're just going to place it on the front of the card, centered. And you have the 1/8 inch border all the way around. And then we're going to put down the orange triangle. Of course, if you like the other side of the paper, it's double-sided paper, so you can always choose the other side if you'd like. I'm going to have the orange side showing. And we're going to put this one on a tilt. So the way I did it is so that the top right corner is almost touching the top edge of the white panel, and the bottom right corner is almost touching the right edge of the panel, and the left bottom corner is almost touching the bottom edge. So you've got 3 corners close to the edge without going over. And it's not really crucial exactly where you put it. I'm just telling you how I put it. So like I said, you have the 3 corners that are almost touching without going over and covering a good portion of our card. And then we have our floral paper, which has the white brick on the back. And this one I'm going to put on the left edge, along the left edge of the embossed panel, about 3/8 of an inch up from the bottom. All right. And then our sentiment, you Turtley rock, unless you had asked for a different sentiment. And I put that so the left edge overlaps the flowers just a little bit, and the bottom right corner is overlaps the white panel a little bit. Again, you know, the spacing is not really excuse me, all that important. It's just I like to tell you where I put it in case you need some help. All right, and now we can color our turtle. And this was a stamp set with matching die cuts, so we don't have to cut them out. I already did all the cutting for you with the die cuts. I'm going to color this guy with a colored pencil, so it's a little different than the sample card. And if you can hold on just a second, my oven just made a beep and I want to make sure it's okay. Yep, I just want to make sure. Okay, so what I was starting to say is when I color with colored pencils, I like to have a smooth surface underneath So I'm just stacking a few pieces of scrap paper together to put my piece on to color on. Colored pencils will pick up the texture of the surface you're coloring on, which is sometimes a good thing because you can actually use it to make textures if you would like. But in this case, I don't want to pick up. There's a lot of rough marks in my cutting board, so I don't want to pick those up. Okay, so I'm using a very dark green, and I'm gonna color kind of the border of his shell here. And I started by not pressing very heavily so that I can come in, press a little heavier, and get it darker to the shade I want. Now, I'm going to kind of follow what I did with the markers. And in this one, you can see I kind of make it a pattern. It kind of looks like a quilting pattern, his shell, grandmother's flower garden. So I'm going to do some of these hexagons in the darker color. And then I'll color some of them in the lighter color. And I'm going to hope that my tip on this colored pencil doesn't break because it's looking precarious. Now this green is, this is much more of a yellow green than my colored pencils, but turtles come in all different color greens, so I don't think it really matters. Whatever you've got should work. Nobody should critique the color of your turtle when you send them a card. By the way, the price of stamps is going up in July. I do not know the exact date. I just know it's in July. So if you may want to stock up on some stamps because they're going up from 78 cents to 82 cents. I appreciate you still taking my card classes and wanting to send cards considering the price of postage, though I have to admit that these days, as much as I like sending people things in the mail to give them a surprise, the price of it makes you really want to hand deliver a lot of things these days. All right, so those are the shells the pieces of the shells that I colored in the dark green. And now I'm gonna pick up a lighter green. I am not sure which one I want. I didn't think I wanted that one, but I wanted to check anyway. Okay, this is more of a yellow green. Apple green, actually, according to the name. And I'm just gonna color in all the remaining hexagons and partial hexagons. And then I'm going to pick a medium green to color in the body of the turtle. Now, if you're not thrilled, if you don't have a big selection of colored pencils, and honestly, I do have a much bigger selection, but I would probably spend more time picking out which shade I wanted more than I spent coloring. So That seems a little silly, but if you don't like the shade of your or the color of your colored pencil, you can always go in with another pencil and kind of color over it, and it kind of it will change the color of your pencil, assuming that you haven't pressed so hard that it's completely it's dark and absolutely the color of that pencil. But you can see now, I'll pick it up in a minute just to show you. So I came back over with that apple green over the body, and you can see it's really changing from, this is more of a Kelly green. Let me see. Oh, it's grass green, to more of a yellow green by adding in this color on top, the apple green on top of the grass green. So I like that a little better because it coordinated with the two colors I used in the shell. Whoops, the tip's coming out of this one. I never, after the last class, I never put my colored pencils away because I was going to try to do some repairing to them. And here they have sat on my desk, and I didn't get a chance to do anything with them. All right, and now I'm going to go back and I'm going to take my darkest green, and I'm just going to do a little highlighting of the marks, the drawn marks on his legs, and some shading under the shell, make it a little darker, a little shadow, and maybe next to on the back or on the back legs. Just a little bit, and there we go. All right. So the turtles I put on the cards with foam tape. So I'm just going to grab my foam tape and cut a few pieces. All right, and taking the backing pieces off over my garbage can. And I'm going to position him right over the sentiment. And there you go. So there is the markers and the colored pencils. Okay, so next is the birthday card. And this one had the khaki kind of colored cardstock. All right, and again, look at it, I didn't even move any of this stuff. All right, so again, we're going to score at 4 1/4. And fold in half. All right, and we're going to go ahead and put adhesive on our embossed panel. And this time I used it so that the flowers and the diamonds are puffed up, and that's the side I'm going to have showing. So I'm going to put the adhesive on the side where those are kind of embossed down. It's really hard to choose with this one because it looks great both ways. One thing I'll tell you about an embossed panel is that, especially when there's a lot of embossing like this one, often when you put the cardstock in the embossing folder and emboss it through the machine, I know by doing the classes this way, I do that, so you don't get to do it yourself. But if you've ever done it, the embossing can shrink the panel, the cardstock panel or paper, whatever you use, shrink it up a little since the paper's being embossed. So what I do is I use a slightly bigger piece of paper and then I cut it down. So like this is actually 1/4 of a sheet of letter size cardstock. And what I'll do is I'll just cut it in the quarters, which would be 4 1/4 by 5, 5 1/2. And then after I emboss it, I trim it to the finished size. So that would be 4 by 5 1/4. And that way you get your perfect 1/8 inch borders when you put it onto the card. If you cut it to the perfect size and then emboss it and it shrinks up a little, it could shrink up unevenly, either vertically or horizontally. It's usually not drastic, so it's not that big of a deal, but to make it more precise, I try to do it that way, just to give you a little helpful hint if you ever emboss something yourself. Okay, so now the first piece we're going to put on is the striped paper, and the striped paper is slightly, it's not a square, it's actually 2 1/4 by 2 1/2, and you're going to put it so the skinnier way, the 2 1/4 inch is, it's 2 1/4 side to side. In this case, because it's the way I cut it, that means the stripes are horizontal. But if you were going to use a different paper or you're going to use the other side, just to let you know, the 2 1/4 should be side to side and the 2 1/2 would be top to bottom. And that's important just so you have enough room to put your other pieces on. You would have less spacing in between each piece if you placed it the other direction. So you're just going to center it top to bottom and left to right. And then we're going to put our 2 green pieces on. The black side is this like blue plaid. All right, so the first piece we're going to put on the left side, we're going to line up the bottom and the bottom edge of the green piece with the bottom edge of the white panel. And I'm going to put it about 1/4 of an inch away from my striped piece. So there's sorry, not 1/4 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch between the two, which means there's a little more space on between the edge, the left edge of the green and the left edge of the panel. And we're going to do the same thing on the right side, but we're going to align the top edge with the top edge of the embossed panel. Again, leaving about 1/8 of an inch of space between the stripe and the green paper. And then we're going to put our sentiment on. And we're going to put that about 1/4 of an inch up from the bottom of the white panel and about 1/4 of an inch in to the right of the left edge of the green panel. And then all we need to do is color our turtle. And I will alternate here. So I will use my marker. Now this one, you know, I use the Spectrum Noir Tri-Blend markers. They have the 3 shades. The turtles I did all with one marker. It's the yellow green blend. And I'm going to start with the darkest color. And I'm going to color all the, I'm just getting my scrap paper. I'm going to color all the hexagons, not the centermost square, but kind of the ring of the hexagons. So whatever, if you're using colored pencils or markers, whatever the darkest color you had, or if you're only using, you don't have as many shades of the pencil, you know, color, use more pressure to make it look darker. Of course, you don't actually have to use the same shading I used. That's just how I decided to color it. I'm thinking on my sample, I actually used the medium color because this one seems a lot darker. But that's okay. All right, and then I'm going to use the lightest color to go in between all those hexagons. In quilts, on a quilt, this would be the sashing. And then I'm also going to color in the body and the head of the turtle in the light color. No. And then I'm going to use the middle shade to do the inside squares of each hexagon. And the kind of bottom border of his shell. Actually, I think I'm going to go through, maybe not. I'll just do I was going to say I'm going to go through actual color over that with the darkest color, but I think if I go over it a couple of times with the medium, it'll make it a little darker. Just note that I am using alcohol markers, so going over several times is okay. If you're using water-based markers, just be careful with the number of times you scribble over one spot, because if it can get very wet and you can actually tear the paper. And now I'm going to, again, still using the medium shade, I'm just going to accent some of these drawn lines on the turtle and give a little shadow under his head and under the shell. I didn't mention that I did use the Intense Black ink pad from Close to My Heart, which allows you to either use watercolors or the alcohol inks without the ink running. So you are safe to use whatever medium you want to use. All right. So there's my little turtle. The sleepy turtle. And again, I'm going to use foam tape. And again, I'm just going to overlap him a little bit over the sentiment. Backing paper doesn't want to come off. And there we go. All right, so next we have Enjoy Your Day. This turtle looks like he's swimming. He's on a navy cardstock. Got some, nope, thought I had some extra pieces. Okay. If you like this color navy, I got it at Michael's. The other two came from other sources that don't exist anymore. But this one is a Michael's paper. Oh, and I scored at 4 1/4 again. And just fold it in half. All right, so again, I am putting this, I'm putting this embossed background the same way as the last one, which means that the puffy flowers, the diamonds, puffy diamonds, they're all puffing up. So I'll put the adhesive on the back of that. And then I'm going to put my orange square I'm going to put this in the bottom left corner, and I'm going to put it about 1/4 of an inch in from the left and from the bottom. So same spacing on the bottom and the left. And then my orange rectangle, I'm going to use that same spacing, but I'm going to put it in the top right. So again, about 1/4 of an inch, the same spacing on the top and on the right. And then our stripe, we're going to center it between those pieces. So I'm not quite sure why I have a little less space, but I'm going to center the the stripes between those two orange pieces. On my sample, I had about 1/8 of an inch. This I have about 1/16 of an inch. If you don't like it, and if you didn't put down your orange pieces if you didn't burnish too much and you can pull them back up, you can pull them up lightly and adjust it. And I guess that's a good lesson. Like if you're doing this kind of spacing and you're not exactly sure how well you're going to like the spacing, you can always try to lightly tack them down before you burnish them. And now I want to burnish it really well since I pulled it up and the adhesive moved. Burnish it really well so it doesn't move. So it just was, I just moved it over slightly, maybe 1/8 of an inch. But really it would have been fine to not move them at all. Okay, we're going to put adhesive on our sentiment. Enjoy the day, or enjoy your day rather. And I put this up here about 1/4 of an inch down from the top of the orange rectangle. And I started the left edge of the sentiment about halfway, at the halfway point of the striped strip. All right, and now we're going to color our turtle, and I will do colored pencils this time. I like how the artist who drew these stamps made every turtle shell slightly different. So this one's got kind of a swirl in the middle, and I'm just going to color inside the swirl with the darkest green. And you can kind of color around the swirl like you were going through a marquee line, or you can just color the whole area like it was one big shape. All right, and then I'm also going to, with the darkest pencil, I'm going to color the bottom border of his shell. And then I think I'm going to use the medium shade of green to color the rest of his shell. And I think I'm going to kind of use a lighter touch again, like I did on the first turtle, and then take some of that apple green on top of it. Just change the shade of the green a little bit. If you don't have a yet more yellow green like I do, you can actually use a yellow as well. And I've kind of have a gold one here. This is yellow ochre. And I'll use that instead to show you that changes the shade of the green as well. So that's another option for you, depending on what colors you have available to you. Now, I got a couple of spots, a little too much pressure with the yellow. So I'm coming back in with the green on top of it, just to make those yellow spots not so obviously yellow. All right, and now I'm going to use my lightest color, which is that apple green, and I'm going to color the head and the body of the turtle with that. And then I'm going to go take my darkest one again and lightly add some shading on the drawn lines and right under the shell onto his legs and tail. Just lightly. And there we go. And the foam tape. All right. And I'm going to put him over the striped strip on an angle, like he's swimming up towards the sentiment. And there are those two. So we are halfway done already. And this guy with the sunglasses, pretty cute. Again, we are going to use the navy cardstock. We did 2 cards of each colored cardstock. All right, and score it at 4 1/4 inches. Fold in half. All right, now I put the embossed panel down with the center of the flowers, the puffed areas actually going down towards the card. So we'll put the adhesive on that side. Oh, and of course, center it on your card. We've got our strip of orange words. I'm going to put this horizontally across the card, about 5/8 of an inch down. Well, let's just say 3/4 of an inch down from the top of the card. So the top of the blue fold. Again, not super crucial, that measurement, but just so it's closer to the top. Then we're going to put our striped square, and I put these stripes going vertically and about 3/4 of an inch in from the left edge of the embossed panel, little less than half of the square overlapping the orange piece. I actually put the piece on this card in farther than I did on the sample. Either way is fine. And then our sentiment, we're going to put it, so we've got about 3/8 of an inch from the right side and the bottom over here, just equal spacing on the right and on the bottom. And here's where you can see I moved this one over because there's just slightly less space here than up here. But again, either way will work. And we will color our turtle. So I just want to see I'm going to use my markers. So again, with my yellow green blend, the darkest shade, I'm going to color in his shell. And again, I think on my sample I used the medium. It does lighten up a little bit as it dries, the color of the alcohol markers. I'm kind of outlining the lines of the design in the shell a little bit, because with the alcohol markers, if you go over it a second or third, fourth time, it will make it darker. So you can kind of see maybe some of that shading. See, it looks darker on the lines than on the inside. That's one of the advantages of the alcohol markers. Now, colored pencils, you could do the same way. Water-based markers don't have that real blending ability. I'm using the medium shade to do the border of his shell. I'm going to come back to the medium shade in a minute, but first I'm going to use the light color to color in the body and head of the turtle. All right, now I'm going to come in again with the medium and highlight the drawn lines and the shadowing. I'm going to go over those sunglasses so they look darker than they do. They kind of had some empty spaces in the stamping image, and I want them to be fully dark, so just going over that area a little bit. If you have a black marker or colored pencil and you want to do the same, you can do that. And I'm gonna color over the border of the shell again because I want it to be darker. When you color with the medium and dark, there's not a huge difference in the medium and the dark colors of the marker doing just one layer, but if you add the second layer to the medium, then it does make it significantly darker. All right, and now we can attach him to the card. Because he's turtly awesome. I've had this stamp set for a while and wanted to do cards with it for a while and Hadn't gotten around to it. I'm glad I finally did because I think they're pretty cute. Okay. Excuse me. All right, so I'm going to put him so he's overlapping the sentiment, just the very top left edge of the sentiment, or the top edge on the left side, and his feet kind of go into the striped square a little bit. So here's the difference you can see in the sunglasses. So this is, I made them really dark. This is where kind of has that shading in it, which, so you can decide which version you like better. All right. This is the khaki cardstock again. Oh, let's celebrate. I am missing a piece of green paper. Let me just cut myself my missing piece here. It happens. Hopefully everybody else, I had to put together, I put these kits together in a couple different stages, so I'm not surprised I'm missing something, but hopefully you have all your pieces. But you know, if you don't, you can just let me know and I will get them to you. This is why I never put all the supplies away until after class is over. All right, so we're going to score our khaki cardstock at 4 1/4. Fold and burnish. All right, so I think one last time our flower centers and diamonds are puffing up. So we'll put our adhesive on the back. Center it on our card. I'm going to put adhesive on the back of our green piece. And that we are going to put on the left side of the card, and we're going to center it or make equal spacing at the top, bottom, and left. So around the 3 sides it is equally spaced, which is about 1/4 inch on each of those 3 sides. Then we have our, our floral paper. Put the adhesive on the back of that. And overlap that onto the green piece about a half an inch, and I've got about an eighth of an inch above the bottom of the green piece. So right there. So it's lower on the card. And then our sentiment will again be on the left side of the card. About 3/8 inch from the left side of the green piece, and about 3/8 inch up from the bottom of the floral piece. So, but just then it makes a nice cluster there on the left. And we will color our turtle with colored pencils. And I'm going to start with the darkest color. I'm going to do the outside circle of, well, they're not actually hexagons. They're only four-sided shapes, but they look like they are half hexagons. I'm going through and making the outline of each of the shapes a little darker. Okay. And then I'm going to use my medium color and go around the outside of the shell, the border. I'm just thinking, and then I'm going to go back over that with my yellow green to make it a little greener. I mean, a little yellower, although I put more pressure and I colored it in darker, so it's doing, it's less effective doing the layering of coloring. But then I'm just going to go ahead and use this green to color his arms and legs and head. And going to go ahead and color the inside center hexagon of his shell, but I'm going to put a lot of pressure on this and make it darker. It's funny, the darker you make it, the more green it looks, the less yellow there is in it. So, whoops, goes my lead, my broken lead. I'm going to take my dark color again and add some more shading by the shell and on the drawn lines. And there's that little guy. And we'll put our foam tape on him. And then we'll attach them to the card. All right, and we're gonna attach him so he kind of looks like he's swimming away from the sentiment, just on that right corner there. And there we go. And our last card. Happy birthday. Our turtle friend has some presents this time. Okay, so this is our Sage cardstock. We will score at 4 1/4. My cardstock is a little crinkled on the edge here, so I'm just varnishing that out. Okay, the embossing panel, the puffy is going down. So I'll put the adhesive on the puffy side. Center it on my card. We're going to put our green panel on first. And we're going to put that in the bottom left corner, about 1/4 of an inch away from the left edge and the bottom edge of the embossed panel, just so it's, again, same spacing, symmetrical on the bottom and the left. Then we're going to put our flower panel in on the top right. I'm going to use that same spacing on the top and on the right. And so they overlap just slightly in the middle there. And put our happy birthday sentiment. Let's say that's a little more than a 1/2 inch from the top of the panel. Just slightly more space of more white on the top of the panel than below the panel. And it's basically, I centered the A over the, or I positioned the A over the left edge of the flower panel, as you can see. All right, and we'll do our markers. And this guy is the only one that has a color other than the green. And I picked these colors because they were the colors that were in the flowers of the flower paper. So that's how I cut my paper. You know, it's funny, it's summer now. I never even turned my light on, and now it's getting dark in here, but I know you guys can see just fine, so I'm not going to mess with it since it is my last card. All right, so this is Burnt Orange Blend. Is the color I used, and I used apparently the darkest shade on this marker to color the bottom present. It's nice because with the natural light, it's actually, I think what you're seeing is nice and bright, and it looks so like the right colors and everything, where sometimes I struggle with the lighting, but it was so bright in here, I never even paid attention. Although, if you guys got the thunderstorm that we got earlier, it got really dark in the house during the storm. Okay, so the top present, I used dark red blend, and I used the lightest shade for the bottom of the box. And then I used the medium shade for the top of the box. And I used the darkest shade for the bow. And then for the ribbon, kind of the line that's coming down, that's supposed to indicate ribbon. And I'm going to use that on the line of the bottom present too, just to give it some more definition, some shading. And then I will go back to my yellow-green blend marker, and I'm going to use the darkest color to color the second ring on the shell and the fourth. All right, so he looks like that. And then I'm going to use the medium shade to color the other rings of a shell. So the top one, the third one, and then the bottom, which is what I've been calling the border of the shell on all the other ones. And then I will use the lightest to color his head and legs. And his tail. Okay, and I'm going to go back to my medium to add the shading under the shell and on the drawn lines. All right. Foam tape. Everybody's been quiet all class, so they must be working hard. No real questions, because these cards seem pretty easy to put together, I think. All right, so I'm going to put him kind of right in the center of the card so that that top present just overlaps the sentiment a little bit. And there we go. So there we go. I hope you enjoyed those cards. I will stay connected for a minute or two here in case anybody has any questions. I am working on some more classes, so stay tuned. Thank you so much for doing these with me. Good, Cheryl. I'm glad you had fun and you liked them. I really like the alcohol markers too, but I know they're a little bit of an investment, and I know myself. It took me a long time to make that investment, but I'm glad I did because I do like them. But I know, not everybody does as much coloring. So they might only have access to the colored pencils. So that's why I kind of like to give you guys options depending on what you're doing. And hey, I didn't have to change my my tape and my tape gun in the middle of class, so there's a big plus. Must have just changed it because I've got a lot left on there. All right, well, good night, everybody. You know where to find me if you have any questions, and hope to see you soon. Good night.